Hey, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to the Your Gray Matters podcast. My name is Jason, here as always with my dad, your host, Neil. Hey, Dad, how you doing today?
Actually, hi, everybody. Actually, I'm annoyed today. I'm sick of the way that people are distressed with the housing challenge in this country. We don't have enough homes for people. It costs too much to get a home. Renters can't afford to be there. And today, we're doing something different. Let's find some answers because on this show, we look for solutions. We don't try to sit in the problem. The solution is in renting, and we're going to talk about rentals today. Can landlords make enough money to keep offering homes for people, or is there just government interference? I don't understand myself. So today we have three real top experts in the world of real estate, the legal implications of it, and actually someone who works with tenants and landlords. And a simple question: how are we supposed to build houses if entrepreneurs can't make money at it? So, yeah, I'm annoyed.
Yeah, but you know what? It's a fantastic episode talking to those experts. Also, interestingly, this episode you'll notice is actually co-branded with another podcast called the CRESI Ontario Landlords Series podcast. One of our guests, Kevin Breitner, hosts that podcast. And so you're going to notice that in this podcast, at a certain point, it looks like Neil is being introduced. And that's because indeed he is. He's being introduced to Kevin's audience. Other than that note, I think we're ready to go.
Yeah, let's get an answer to this. Everybody, please pay attention. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't know how we build houses or rental units if people can't afford to build them or to rent them out. Doesn't make sense to me.
And some of the answers, maybe, are coming up next. Please remember to like, subscribe, enjoy the episode.
Thanks, everybody. Hi, everybody. I'm Neil from the Your Gray Matters podcast. How do you like my new swag? Cool, eh? Covers up my gray hair with my gray hat. It's just perfect. We want to welcome you back, everybody. And as you know, we have built this podcast to introduce you to important people, great people who are doing great things. We love disruptive technologies, different ways of doing things that help people. And tonight, we are doing something a little bit different. We don't just have one great guest, we have three of them. And we are diving into a subject that is big news in this country: Canada's housing. Where are people going to live? Can they afford to buy? Are they able to sell? But tonight we look at what happens when you want to rent. And I have to tell you, these three people sitting here in front of you are three of the best, most experienced people that you could find. And we highly recommend every one of them to you to get information. Let me tell you quickly who they are. The first one is Kevin Breitner. You can guess which one he is. He's the one with the red hat. Um, and I've known Kevin for many years. Kevin is CEO and founder of Complete Real Estate Solutions and Investments, lovingly known as CRESI. It's a real estate team powered by REMAX, and this is a real group of professionals, investors, and they actually offer to you, CRESI, everything that you need to know for residential, commercial, investments in real estate, and not only that, a great product to help landlords manage their properties. And with that, Kevin has the Ontario Landlords Series podcast, which you're going to hear about tonight. With Kevin, we are really lucky to have Kayla Andrade. Kayla, well known in the real estate world. She's a dedicated advocate, landlord consultant, and ambassador for Landlord Credit Bureau and Front Lobby. She founded Ontario Landlords Watch. It's a grassroots advocacy organization that supports landlords, tenants, and taxpayers by addressing rental housing market challenges and legislation. We're going to get into that. And we're also very lucky to have this gentleman, Rob DeLisi. He's the managing partner and licensed paralegal for Stonegate Legal Services Professional Corporation. He's a manager, he's a real estate investor, he is a terrific educator, let me tell you. And he works with landlords to help manage risk and build sustainable rental businesses. Everybody, welcome to the Your Gray Matters podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Hey, everybody, for those of you who are watching it on the CRESI channel, you already know about Kevin Breitner and this great show. And Kevin, I'm glad to be on your show.
Yeah, no, Ontario Landlord Series, right on our podcast here. We're always speaking to landlords to educate and inform them with what's going on and what they need to know. And Neil and I have actually crossed paths for the first time over a decade ago, as Neil is a licensed mortgage broker as well as a real estate investor, and obviously the host of a podcast, Your Gray Matters, where he speaks to people that have a little bit more gray hair than I do about what they need to do in their later years so they can best set up in all different ways and all different topics. And today we're doing a cross promotion here where we're bringing our audiences together, because what we're speaking about with housing and landlord issues is a little bit between both channels. So thanks, Neil, for having me on yours, and I appreciate you being on mine.
And thank you very much, Kevin. I really appreciate this. So, Kevin, I wanted to ask you, what drew you into this space? And frankly, why do landlords trust you so much? And they do.
So those are two really good questions. What drew me into the space, I think, I'm service related. At the end of the day, I started in the restaurant industry, and a lot of the things that I learned while in the restaurant industry, we use in our customer service and models today with how we take care of our clients, landlords, and tenants with their situation. So it's just about being service. I like that people don't have to worry about what they're doing, and that gives me that fill there. And it came naturally with the transition in real estate from just helping families move around the city to starting to help investors with pre-construction and investment real estate. We then got into managing their properties so that they didn't have to worry about the day-to-day. And then it grew even more into why these two amazing people are also here to talk about things, is they're part of the team that I've built around myself, so that the landlords are getting the right information, up-to-date information, and all the information so that they can make an educated, informed decision for their specific situation.
And that makes sense. And what a lineup you have on your show. I have to say, I'm so thrilled to meet Kayla and Rob, myself. And Kayla, you have become a real voice for landlords in Ontario. What pushed you to create the Ontario Landlords Watch? Tell us about Kayla Andrade.
Oh, thanks so much for Neil for having me on and being a part of Kevin's series every single month. I do appreciate it. And I do love the fact that you're giving me the opportunity to keep that voice, because it's not just about me speaking it, but the people who do support me. So thank you for that. Ontario Landlords Watch started back in 2010 when the city of Cambridge made landlords responsible for their tenants' delinquent utility bills. We had drafted a petition trying to stop it at the provincial level after we kind of hit the wall with the municipal, and that had got a lot of traction. But at the same time, it came back with notes from the community asking me to help them fight the Residential and Tenancy Act at the Landlord Tenant Board. So I really took a pause and understanding that it's not just about water billing. There's a bigger issue that these landlords are facing. And if the landlords are facing it, then the tenants are facing it. And in turn, our taxpayers are also paying the piper for just the mismanagement, I think, of the housing crisis that we live in. So that just has brought everybody together through a Facebook group in which anything that happens in housing, I'm always making sure that I inform our community about it. I'm making sure that I'm including them in the discussions and making sure I'm there to support them through their journey as being a landlord in Ontario, because it's very difficult.
Yeah, so I picked you up, and thank you for that. And just as I move over to you, Rob, you work on the front lines managing rental properties. I want to ask you today, in your opinion, let's kick off from here. What is the number one issue facing landlords today?
My God.
Yeah, I just thought I'd give you one. No, I'm kidding. But start us off though, because actually, what's behind this question, Rob, as I thought about what you do, is in trying to understand the work of landlords and tenants. You're a paralegal. You're very good at what you do. I wanted to also look at what landlords need. My question to you is correct in your opinion. What are the issues? But also, you're a paralegal. Does a landlord, does a tenant need a paralegal? Do they need lawyers nowadays to even rent? Like, jump in wherever you like. But I know, having had paralegals on this show, you all do tremendous work, really tremendous work.
I
So,
really appreciate that. So I'll start off with one that I know Kayla shares the passion with me is the Ontario Landlord and Tenant Board. I'm going to say that that is probably the stone in the shoe that every landlord faces because as landlords, because I'm a landlord myself, we provide housing. We do our best to provide housing. Yes, it's an investment, but then when the tenant doesn't do their part, we now have to wait to get to the landlord and tenant board, which can now take, I'm going to go worst case, 4, 6, 8 months if there's delays just to be heard. And, the landlord and tenant board talks about access to justice. This is not justice when you're choking the people that are providing housing. And Kayla, you can chime in on this, but the small landlord is the majority of the people that provide housing. It's not the big mega corporations. So if you strangle the individual investor, they're going to back out of renting rental properties, and then the government's going to have a bigger issue. Now, leading to the other thing is you asked if they need to hire a lawyer. You can hire a lawyer, but in this line of work of dealing with landlords and tenants, it's usually done by a paralegal, not by a lawyer. And the reason being is that lawyers usually work in the higher courts, where paralegals advocate in the smaller courts known as tribunals.
okay.
And that's we advocate. Our office is advocating strongly for the landlords and people like Kayla, who's on the front line advocating to these government individuals, which I can't comment on too much. And then we have Kevin Bretner trying to manage these properties for these landlords, trying to do their due diligence and due process of dealing with these tenants.
Fair enough. Fair enough. And it's important. And speaking as an entrepreneur myself, what I really wonder about with this whole thing is I know that there's a lot of rules, a lot of regulations, there's a lot of government involved in this on a provincial level and becoming more and more, I think, even on a federal level, with housing becoming such a big issue. And what I would wonder about, I don't know, worry about, a little bit I do, is it worthwhile for the landlord? Can you still make money? Can you have a nice life? And it's simply a question because normally entrepreneurs, if they can't win, they don't normally do stuff. But we need housing. We need housing, and we need it to be affordable. So anybody who wants to answer, please jump in.
Oh, I'd jump on that one.
Well,
You know what? I was like, this is our cup of tea. You know what? You're right that we need housing. Is it a good business to still be in? Not at today's numbers and what's coming in. It is elsewhere in the province. It is elsewhere in the states. And you're like you said, Neil, is that there is a lot of government involvement at the provincial level. That's the ones who are supposed to be really harmonizing what is going on in our industry and fixing what is wrong. And then we have the federal government coming into the pile now and saying, look what we can do. And then we have the municipal government. This is where municipal are like, okay, like, the province passed us this responsibility to deal with the affordability housing crisis. And now we have to come up with municipal bylaws and policies and try to do that as well as a municipal government, in which they're getting it all wrong. They're doing landlord licensing, they're doing water billing, they're doing the short-term rental bans. They're also do rent eviction bans. They're preventing landlords from, being able to evict tenants in order to complete renovations. Meanwhile, we're like, hello, like you want these tenants in safe housing. Now you're making it harder for us to get them to relocate so that we can do the work and have them come back at the same rate. So a lot of it's coming down to multiple levels of government not speaking with each other and not speaking with the stakeholders. They may speak with the developers, but the developers are now obviously, based on recent news, they're suffering. They're struggling to get their projects on the go. They're struggling to get the funding. Nonprofit housing providers are also struggling to get the funding as well. And our elected officials are always looking at nonprofit housing as that solution. But are they really nonprofit, or are they getting like severe salaries in which that's what they're promoting? But again, it looks like politicians supporting nonprofit or politicians supporting private for-profit landlords. Which one looks better on your resume, right? So I think that's where we have to sit back and realize that we got to stop bringing politics into the housing industry and do what is absolutely necessary, and that's bring access to justice to both parties, landlords and tenants.
And it's a tough issue.
You're right, Neil. It is a tough issue because everybody needs a roof over their head, right? Whether they own it, whether they rent it, everybody needs a roof, and it's something that we all have to work together on as housing providers, as investors, landlords, and everything now. Like Rob mentioned about the smaller landlord, that's where it really matters. It's everything was done before when it was the big REITs and the corporations that had the big apartment buildings. Now it's the individuals that are buying these pre-construction condos or their houses that they moved on from, or their first property they keep and they rent out. There's a lot of people that are renting out homes to singles or individuals, and singles or families, sorry. But with what you were saying there, is it right now still a good time to do it? Kayla said, not where the numbers aren't there, and that's right. We do this all for numbers, right? It is an investment. We do it with money to make money, but the way to do it is to protect yourself right now and get something where you're turning a single family into a multifamily, where all the municipalities are allowing you to get a minimum of 3 units. So if you can do that, you're now also protecting yourself from non-payment of rent situations where you have 3 payments coming in instead of just 1 for that house. But
So you're lessening the risk by having more properties.
exactly.
Okay. But then let me ask you, Rob, when I look at these property management costs, the cost of repairs, the ongoing taxes, the time that it takes to get permits, which is horrific, mortgage rates for the landlords, if they need to get a mortgage to buy the properties, if they're looking for investors. My question goes back to the legality of it too, is you must also need legal help. What I'm trying to say is, why does it have to be so damned hard to put a roof over people's homes, make money, and for this politician, I mean nothing but respect to the politicians. It's not a negative comment when I say, wouldn't it be a lot better for you if people could get homes easier and afford them, but at a rate where the landlord can afford to put them up and manage them? In other words, what are all these stacked costs that the cities and the province are putting onto landlords? Let's tell the truth here. Is that not really an issue?
Oh, absolutely. I can tell you as a landlord, I experienced this as well. I'm going to say something that might be a little left side here, but I don't think everyone should be a landlord. I think a lot of people become landlords because they think it's a hands off. I hear this all the time from a TV personality. I won't say the name. He always says hands off passive investment. This is not a hands off passive investment. We need
Not
to
at all. Not
we
at
need
all.
the dialogue. Even some of the condos downtown Toronto, I'm sorry, some of the people I don't feel sorry for. These are 300 square feet. They're not even hotel rooms that they're using as a vehicle to flip. They're not investors. They're not landlords. They're trying to take advantage of the market. And if you're going to be a landlord, you have to treat it like a business. There's going to be good times. There's going to be bad times. You need to understand the legalities. You need to understand what programs or companies are out there, like Front Lobby, like Open Room, like Kevin Bretner, that understands the RTA, educates himself, and people should be using people like Kevin to manage their properties because he knows frontline experience. Getting a little passionate. Sorry.
Well, actually, based on what you just said, Rob, and I prefer my ignorance on this because my real estate investing for years and years and years has been passive because I don't know how to fix a pipe. I don't know how to fix a broken toilet. So it doesn't appeal to me. So I get passive income, but nobody can survive if everybody has passive income in real estate. Somebody has to fix something and offer something. And so you raised an interesting point, Rob. And again, Kayla, Kevin, click in. So are there no requirements legally, no training, required training to be a landlord, same way that I have to pass courses and upgrade every bloody year to keep my mortgage license? And that is proper. Real estate professionals have to qualify. How the heck can you own rental property and not have to earn the right to do so? Or am I just way off, guys?
Same reason we let everybody reproduce. We can't stop some things from happening, right?
Well, I got to think about that for a minute. I had never had a cop in my bedroom, but I do think it's possible that having someone official to talk to landlords and oversee, and tell me if I'm full of crap. But truth is, shouldn't there be something as we have in most areas of professionalism, or no?
Yeah, I'm gonna jump in. Like, oh my god, I'm like my cheeks hurt from this government. I don't even know if I can talk. You know what? Don't give the government any crazy ideas because right now, like, I think we're struggling to find people who want to be landlords in Ontario. So making them to go through an educational course is going to be absolutely like pulling teeth.
How do the landlords then find out about the N1s and the N15s and when you can love on people and you need to get your rent, but the government says that you're not allowed to collect it? If there's no course, who the hell's teaching this thing?
Well, and that's the thing. Like a lot of it comes down to like even when I first started, like being a landlord of a fiveplex, and I just knew about this water billing. I didn't know that there was a residential and tenancy act and landlord and tenant board that we have to pay attention to. That's the rule book that we're supposed to be following. But at the same time, our government doesn't really come out and say like this is your rule books, this is what you have to do. They make landlords have like a guide kit to give to their tenants when they become tenants on like what the rules and regulations are. But deep down, every landlord is learning from their mistakes. Every landlord is learning from other landlords' mistakes, and they're starting to join different real estate investment groups to grow their portfolio. And then people like Kevin, people like Robert come in, and then myself, and we're coming in to say, hey guys, wake up. We have the Residential and Tenancy Act. This is what it says. This is the Landlord and Tenant Board. This is what it does. And this is how it's broken, right? So a lot of it's going to be through trial and error. So again, it's more about, expecting our government to come out and say, hey, we are representing both good landlords and good tenants, give out more as much information and education as they possibly can and not depend on the companies and the organizations out there to provide that education. But thank God for Google these days, because this is where the landlords are getting their education and pointing them to the right resources to help them through their troubling times.
I bet you, Rob, you're probably going to say the same thing I was just going to say, but Rob and Stonegate Legal Service have put together Landlord Mastery. It's a downloadable PDF that we have on our website that you can get rid of. I know Rob, we give it away. Rob gives it away. We want landlords out there to be educated and informed. And that was a great thing that they put together. And that's kind of what we always do with our talks and with our podcasts, is to continue to get that education and information out there. To even circle back to the investor summits now that we are going to continue doing as well, to continue to educate and inform investors, whether they're real estate or other different types of financial investments. There's going to be a whole bunch of professionals there to continue that education, because all the different coaching programs that I see out there on the real estate side for investors, they only talk about how to buy something, right? It's, hey, you want to go buy something, because that's where realtors make their money, is on the buy and the sell. They're looking for people to go buy investments. Hey, this is what you want to do. This is a buying strategy. But then as soon as they buy it, it's like every realtor just pats them on the butt and says, okay, go get them, Tiger. You're a landlord now.
That's
And
it.
they don't know what to do, right? And that's what we're trying to do, is make it a better place for all the tenants and the landlords out there, because they do have to work in conjunction.
So this is very important what you just said, guys, because the three of you are creating a service for the community of landlords, possibly the community of tenants too, so that, because if you can have, this is the wrong title, I apologize, but a self-policing community that can make sure that people at least have the structure that they're supposed to follow. Because it is about making money. So who even teaches landlords how to make money? Because with the costs and the fees and the possibility of damages and insurance. And by the way, I'm a complete neophyte to this, so I'm guessing if my question is even right to you. But I love what you're doing because I sort of get the sense that people could become discouraged to become landlords, and we need landlords. We need people to offer housing. So jump in, anybody, but I wanted to say I'm also curious. Do you think that, and here I'm not speaking out against Ontario's government at all. I'm asking a question. Do our Ontario government's policies discourage people from even entering the rental market as landlords? Is there a
100.
problem there, and what is it?
There's a problem. I think there's a disconnect between the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, the disconnect between the Attorney General, the disconnect between the Minister of Social Services, and the disconnect between municipal government and the stakeholders. They're going to be coming out with a report, as what I'm hearing, in October. Did they bring it to the stakeholders? Did they have a conversation about this before they put it into this type of legislation that they're bringing out in October? No, they didn't. We're always putting the cart before the horse, and it shouldn't be this hard to communicate with our elected officials at that provincial level to say, hey, this is happening. This is not right. This is theft. This is how tenants are abusing the system. This is how there's loopholes. This is how landlords who are in the system being landlords are not able to get justice because we have tenants who are abusing it. But in turn, also say that tenants can't get their hearings at the landlord and tenant board because we're bogging it down with items and topics that don't need a full on hearing. So we're trying to get our voices out there, speak with the elected officials, say, let's have this sit down. Let's analyze what's happening with the landlord and tenant board and how can we work together to make it sure that it is fair for the landlords and the tenants. And in turn, if we can deal with this affordable housing crisis, we're going to be saving some taxpayers some money as well. Because recent news, we do have stating a state of emergency based on our housing, stating that there's tent encampments, the violence, the drugs that is
Yeah.
happening there, at the state of emergency. There's motions happening in the city of Cambridge trying to prevent the city from taking down encampments because of extreme heat. Like, we have to start analyzing what is happening and making sure that all of us are on the same page, because obviously it's not working. And the definition of insanity is doing the exact same thing and expecting different results.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I want to talk a little bit about the role that rental housing is playing right now in solving this housing crisis, because I'm wondering, are you finding that rental housing is just the long-term reality for Canadians, or is it more of a bridge between buying properties to live in? Like, where does rental housing fit in nowadays? Like, are people depending on rental housing, you think, for long terms? Now, that's their standard of living, which could be a lovely standard of living. I'm not passing any judgment. Or is it a bridge between buying houses? And if it is, maybe that's why the government maybe isn't paying enough attention to it. I'm just wondering, I'm trying to make sense of all of this.
I think rentals used to be a bridge to buying. Now it's just it's what they have. It's the only thing they do have. So a lot of people are falling into the rental trap, I guess you can say, because the cost of living is high. And to come up with a down payment, I'm just speaking for Toronto purposes, the average home being almost $1 million, like for someone to save up for that is going to take a very, very, very long time.
Yeah, 2 lifetimes.
Exactly. Unless the bank of mom and dad helps out, which I'm seeing a lot of right now as well. I don't know, Kevin, if you want to throw in there.
Yeah, so a few years ago, 33% of Canada paid rent. That number is closer to 40% now, if not higher. It's going to continue to grow. I truly think over the next 10 to 20 years, we're going to see that dividing line of owning real estate be a change in our demographics to your lower class, middle class, and upper class. Canada is such a new country. We're so new to everything in our real estate compared to the rest of the world. We had that big hike in prices that we went through this last few years, which I think a lot of people got fooled into thinking this is normal. The speculators, Rob mentioned those type of investors earlier, the speculators that got into pre-construction, The number that I heard recently is $14.2 billion is going to be lost in GTA condo speculators because of this condo crash. We were never building in my 13 years in real estate. We've never built to what the Ontario government wanted us to build for our number the entire time until 24 and 25. We've now surpassed that number by about 10,000 roughly each year. And now we have an abundance of units because of everything that's gone on where people are not closing on them, walking away from them. There's money and deals to be had out there that people are just sadly, I think, making poor decisions, not being educated again, where they don't realize that they might have a secondary option. When you hear about somebody willing to walk away from hundreds of thousands of dollars on a purchase, where if they just got an investor on board, ended up closing on it, did something where they could get through the next 5 to 10 years, because real estate is a get wealthy slow. It is not a get rich,
Correct.
right? It is a
Correct.
long-term play. And people over the last few years really thought that, hey, I should be able to buy a house this year, and next year it's worth $50,000 more. And that's, $50,000 to $100,000 more. There was one place that went up a few $100,000 from when it was bought in November to then when it was resold in January. That's from 21 to 22, which is absolutely crazy. Great Christmas present for that guy. Um, it's
But
something that is going to have to change, and is really going to affect our Canadian economy.
Kayla quoted Einstein a few minutes ago about the definition of insanity, but actually what you just said really is the definition of insanity. So here's what I heard. We need homes. Landlords can't afford to buy them. Investors don't know how to buy them. They walk away from them, which means nobody's possibly living in them. When we need to put roofs over people's heads, we earlier learned that there's not really an official training for landlords, which I would like to think would include financial education, how to do this, being a mortgage agent, being a financier. That's how you and I met, Kevin. And then all the legalities around it, Rob. And so what I just heard is, for many people, it's too hard to figure it out. So I hear the guys in Ottawa going, we need to have more homes, and the landlords are saying, we don't know how to do it. Is that fair, what I just heard?
It's perfectly fair. But again, we have to ask the question, how do we expect the same mindset that created the problem to fix it?
Yeah. Well, that is a problem with government, isn't it? And normally it's the entrepreneurs and the intelligent people, like everybody on this show right now, who usually come up with the answers. Sometimes it's just very hard to explain it to the people who won't change their mindset. That is really, really frustrating. I know that we're talking about provincial government, we're talking about municipal government, but with the big story right now, the federal government, every party basically is touching on housing first. Is the federal government helping in any way? Is it getting more involved? Is it slowing down the process? We wouldn't want all of you entrepreneurs in real estate to have it too easy. So we were thinking maybe we should add in another level of government. I don't know. Tell me what you think.
National housing strategy that's been a proven fail, like that's what we have to consider. And we knew it was going to be a fail. And that's what they've been telling everybody throughout that 4 years. But we have a national strategy. This is a national housing strategy. It's going to work. And then you come out and you say it was a fail. Now, who's taking the responsibility that it was a fail? And do we need all three levels of government interfering in this industry? One, I've spoken with many elected officials at the provincial level, and they said, A, profit should not be a bad word. And number two is that the government shouldn't be in the business of housing. And that was and guess what? Now being associate to the Minister of Housing, they're no longer the associate to Minister of Housing. So again, they really need to say who is responsible, and we need to be the one overseeing this. And when we do have municipal government doing what they're doing right now, where is the province stepping in and saying, hey, come on, municipalities, you can't be doing rent eviction bylaws and short-term rental bans, and you can't be doing landlord licensing, and you shouldn't be doing this water billing, because when the province does something, could do something good, then the municipalities are over here doing something bad. And now they're playing tug of war with each other. So someone's got to come to the party and someone's going to say, this is what we're going to do. Ideally, we want them out of it and let the private sector do what they do best. But again, these are a wish list and Christmas is just around the corner.
Well, the way our country's been going, they're going away from free enterprise and entrepreneurs, and that's just my own political statement about the last only since 2015. Let
Yep.
me think back though, guys. So think of me as the 10-year-old kid watching cartoons 60 years ago, because Saturday mornings you watched cartoons. And what do I remember a lot? Snidely Whiplash, that terrible landlord who was only there to hurt the tenants and to steal their money, and profit is horrible. And like, is that still a belief today? Are landlords getting scapegoated in this housing crisis? Is there, again, I'm drilling down. I believe that people should be landlords, but I'm asking, are they getting a bad rap still? Or is there some sanity out there?
I think they get a bad rap. I think everybody believes that every single landlord is a multimillionaire and they can afford to carry the extra mortgage when really majority of small landlords just maybe were a young couple and they were able to buy a second house and kept one of their first condos and that became an investment property and they get stuck with it. Or a couple that wanted to build out their retirement fund and decided, hey, we'll buy a second property because we've seen what ours has done and we can put our money to that. And they're just regular people that are now out there getting screwed over their investments. It's all over the news where certain landlords are having to sell their home because the tenant isn't paying the rent in their secondary home, and the banks are just going to take one instead of both. Anyways,
Well, we've sure had some insanity of tenants being properly evicted and they won't leave. And we all know that story from not that long ago.
I'm going on this, like we always get a bad rap with the greedy landlords. This is that. But again, like they think everyone's going to be a homeowner. Sometimes people are going to be stuck in to being a tenant. They don't have the down deposit. They don't got the good credit. They definitely don't have the income to support a mortgage. So we do have that population of people that will always be renters. And we do need that landlord to be able to put everything on the line, put all the risk, put the money down, put the down payment, put their credit on the line for this in particular tenant. But what tenants need to understand is that the landlords are tenants. We got to pay that money to the bank. Look at what our mortgage rate is. Look at what our insurance is.
Yeah.
Look what our interest rate on that money that we're borrowing. The money that we may say that we're the owners, but deep down it's still owned by the bank because a lot of these landlords are taking on properties that are still owed money to the bank. And it's hard to, say that you're getting up there in paying this property off when we have such the unpredictability of like Canada, the Bank of Canada playing with those rates, not letting
Yep.
landlords know, like, are we going up? Are we going down? Like, what's happening? So again, landlords are just tenants themselves. And that's just what they have to understand, that we're all in this game together. We just now need to come together at that table to be able to say this is what's happening, but come with solutions. It's not about complaints anymore. I think a lot of our elected officials, our landlords, our tenants, we know the issues. It's about coming to the table together now and creating something different. It has to be a reform.
It has to. Rob, I wanted to ask you, I've read, and I'm sure that this is true, that most tenants are good tenants. We don't want to paint the picture that, oh, the poor landlord, because anybody who moves into their property is a bad person who won't pay their rent, ruins the property, and won't leave. It's not true. My research tells me that most tenants are really, really good. But when you do have to evict, when you do have to unfortunately get rid of people, man, the costs for the landlords are piling up. As I said a minute ago, the system doesn't seem to protect people who are landlords. But talk to me about tenants. What do you really find with tenants? Because that has to be a joy point for landlords somewhere.
So I have two categories of tenants. I have the worst of the worst, which is where the ones that you hear or you see on Facebook or Instagram or these landlord and tenant groups. And then I have tenants that it's not really the tenant's fault. A lot of the times it's the landlord's fault. because they just don't know what they're doing. I do agree with the comment that not all tenants are bad. I'm a landlord myself. I've never really had huge problems except for one problem in the past. That's a different episode. But most tenants, I don't really have a problem with. Now, in my office, when people are calling us, it's because most of the times it is because of the bad tenants. But again, they fall in two categories. It could be the really bad ones or the ones that just have bad landlords that don't know how to maintain the property. They don't know how to communicate. There's no rules, there's no regulations, there's nothing. So the tenants sometimes get stuck in a situation. So I'm going to say that the majority of the ones that I see go into column A, which is the really bad. And those are the ones that damage the property. They know the system, they don't pay rent, and they don't fear front lobby, open room. They don't fear anything. They know the system, they take advantage of the system.
Too many things out there telling them how they can get around as well,
That's
right?
correct.
There's too much information telling people how they can backdoor or loophole through somebody else's life savings, basically.
Well, Kevin, you're on to something there when like you mentioned, Robert, like that people don't fear it because they're able to find that naive, uneducated landlord get into the door where they know they're not going to do a credit check. And that's why I became the ambassador to Front Lobby, because I want these landlords. I know they don't care. They have crappy credit anyways. Like it's time to put them into the credit bureaus through the system, but at the same time, educate other landlords that they need to do their credit report. Do not accept a credit report from a tenant. They are coming fraudulent. Their work references are coming fraudulent. They're scamming the system because they know they're at the end of the rope, especially since rent reporting became popular in Ontario and Canada and even in the States. So our job is now to educate our landlords. Do your own credit checks. Make sure that you're reporting them because you now need to know that there's consequences. And this is an example, which I haven't even posted about yet. I had a tenant that's almost 6 years ago. I reported him to the credit bureaus, and he's now coming back to say, hey, I'm not that stupid 26-year-old anymore. I want to make some payment arrangements. I want to get this off this credit. This is the only thing that's stopping me from finding accommodations for me and my two daughters that I have custody for. And again, he's using the fact that, oh, he's a single dad, trying to make me. And I replied politely to say, hey, you owe me this much money. I'm willing to give you a deal that you can, a settlement of 50%. I'll report it as paid and in good standings. Is that good for you? And understand that I'm being very generous and there's consequences to your actions. And that's what our government hasn't done, is provided consequences. If I stole $100 worth of gas, I would be charged. If I can steal $50,000 from a landlord, because I know how to work the system from the stays to the reviews to the Supreme Court, like I know how to steal that type of money. And all of it's doing is just impacting your credit. There needs to be consequences to people's actions. That's the only way that they're going to learn. And this is coming from a mom of four.
And it's right, because every other industry has consequence for people who don't pay, with policies that back them up if they need to do collections and go after people. So that leads me to this question that I was going to ask you, Rob, is, so what are the safeguards or strategies that landlords should be putting in place from day one?
So day one, I would make sure that you're familiar with the RTA. That would be number one.
What does RTA mean? The rental, say
The
what it
residential
means.
So that's the legislation that governs landlord and tenant matters. I would qualify the crap out of your tenant, and including that would be using front lobby. And if you are not an experienced landlord, hiring, I would say Kevin, but someone like Kevin that understands the ins and outs of the laws so that you are safeguarded. At least you are doing your due diligence. Don't go in blindfolded. At least understand what you're getting into. I have worked with, not Kayla directly, but I've done stuff with front lobby. So I know what they do. And it's even good for tenants because they can report good credit and bad credit.
We use Front Lobby with our program when we're placing tenants. And one of the best stats that I say all the time to our landlords is when we're looking at a tenant, we tell them that, hey, with our program here, we can positively rent report, because everybody needs credit, whether you're buying a house, buying a car, just getting a credit card. That's something that everybody looks at. So By them signing a form, we can positively rent report. We don't need them to sign that to negatively rent report. But I say this because the statistic that I saw was 68% of tenants love this program, right? That tells you that 32% don't, 3 out of 10 that don't plan on paying their rent on time. So now when you're vetting somebody, you're now going for the best out of 7 instead of the best out of 10.
And you're right, Kevin. Like this is, and Robert, like it's the good and the bad. It's not a bad tenant list. It's about holding the tenants accountable. It's also pulling that rent reporting to the credit bureaus to reward our good tenants who paid and whoever paid through COVID. It's also their system where you can remind tenants easily, not very like controversial, like, hey, rent's due. The system reminds the tenants that their rent is due. It also allows the landlords to update that record. So it's not just staying on their record and they can't, achieve to get rid of that debt. It helps them be able to report those payment plans to the credit bureau. You can also report your co-signers. So if you have someone else that wants to have good credit, we can report your co-signers with Front Lobby as well. And I'm hoping that our Attorney General sees that this is something that is needed for our industry to bring back the transparency and the accountability to the housing industry. And I know our federal government also talked about, hey, your biggest rent, your biggest expense, it's going to be contributing to your credit. He obviously didn't talk about the negative, but we do need to understand that more needs to be done from our elected officials to highlight these type of tools and these type of services so that landlords can feel a little bit more comfortable investing into this market because it is very risky. Give them the tools that they need to succeed.
Agreed, agreed. As we start to wrap it up, and everybody, today we've heard from 3 amazing experts. They're right on the front line of Canada's housing crunch. Kevin, Kayla, Rob. Folks, if you need something, you want to reach out to these people. And I'll tell you, a good place to start is Kevin Breitner. He knows what's going on. He knows how to talk to people. He's a big man with a very big heart and a much bigger brain, actually. And I have to tell you, and I've known him for years, and I recommend him. What's clear to me, what the 3 of you have taught me today, and I really didn't know. I never heard of some of the organizations that you even talked about today. And I'm sure that our good producer, Jason, will on our podcast link ways that people can reach them if they're needed. But it's clear to me landlords are playing a crucial role in providing homes, period. Full stop. As entrepreneurs, they should know, and they often expect, I imagine, to know how to wind their way through the minefields of owning properties and renting them out. But at the same time, these are entrepreneurs. They can take so much risk, they can take so much challenge, but if they're not profitable, as all entrepreneurs do, then they move on to something that will be profitable. In this case, anybody who's paying attention, that means fewer homes. So we need to have a way that we can have these entrepreneurs, these landlords, these specialists like these 3 marvelous people on our show today, to be able to help landlords and tenants and for the government to do whatever they can to make it easier to put roofs over people's homes by protecting the people who are willing to do it. We want to thank the 3 of you so much on the Your Gray Matters podcast. Kevin, Rob, Kayla, we're really honored to have you on the show. And everybody, we will connect you with Kevin so you can reach out if you need to. Thanks for tuning in. Everybody, thanks for being on the show. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Neil.
Okay, and everybody, and thank you. And everybody, we hope that you have a roof over your home, a roof over your head tonight. And we will see you again in the next Your Gray Matters podcast. Have a great week. Thanks for watching. If you found it interesting and you liked it, give us a thumbs up. If you're ready to subscribe, click right here. And if you'd like to see another episode, click right here. Tell a friend. Send us comments. Thanks a lot.